Welcome to this video on calculating wage gaps. In this video we will explain how to calculate the gap between employee remuneration and living wage, and what to do once the gap is known. In our video defining living wage, we discussed how an employee's remuneration is often lower than the living wage benchmark for the region where they live. Before we go further, it's important to mention that employee remuneration refers to the total amount that an employee earns, including any in-kind benefits such as food or housing. Now, let's see how the process of calculating the wage gap works. ASC strongly recommends using the IDH salary matrix to support the process of measuring employee remuneration and of calculating any living wage gap. Let's go over what you will need to be able to do the calculation. We must first start by identifying which employees to include in the calculation. There are two ways to gather employee data. The first option is to collect data for every employee, and the second option is to collect data from the majority of employees. These should include, at least, the four largest job categories, meaning the four categories with the highest number of employees, the employees receiving the lowest pay, and the temporary employees. Next, we calculate employees' remuneration by including wages, benefits, and bonuses. To be included, payments must meet four conditions. 1. Receipt assured, which means that employees can depend on receiving the amount regularly. 2. Received within 1 year, meaning that payments must be issued within 12 months. 3. Earned during standard working hours, from which overtime is excluded. And 4. Paid in legal tender, meaning that payments must be in cash or bank transfers. Some employers provide in-kind benefits, things like meals, housing, and transport. These reduce living expenses, and are included in the remuneration if they meet specific conditions. They must be valued fairly. Costs must be based on actual employee expenses or market value. And their use is limited. Benefits cannot exceed 30% of the total income, for all in-kind benefits, 15% for housing, and 10% for food or transport. Here's an example of a wage gap calculation. Suppose the living wage benchmark in a specific region is $980 per month. A unit of certification finds that its fish health technicians are paid $940 per month, and farm workers receive $900 per month. Because both of these categories of workers are earning a wage that is below the living wage benchmark, we can see that there is a living wage gap here. In this case, the living wage gap would be 4% for fish health technicians and 8% for farm workers. So what should you do with this information? Indicator 3.8.2 of the ASC Farm Standard requires you to calculate the gap between employee remuneration and the living wage benchmark for the region where your unit of certification is located, every year, following the method outlined in Appendix 11. According to Indicator 3.8.3, you must report these findings via MyASC, following the ASC data submission procedures. Keep in mind that personal employee data should never be shared publicly. The information provided in this data reporting is kept confidential by ASC. The purpose of this step is to gain insights, encourage discussions about the challenges of paying a living wage, and develop strategies to improve wages and benefits over time. This brings us to our final point, Indicator 3.8.4. When a gap is identified between current employee remuneration and the living wage benchmark for your region, the next step is to develop and implement a plan to improve wages, working towards a living wage for all employees. ASC has created a wage improvement plan template to help you in this process, but you are free to use your own format, or any other wage improvement tool, as long as the plan includes the following. Reporting on relevant wage data, including the average living wage gap for workers earning below a living wage. Clear targets and timelines for improving wages for workers below the living wage. A 3-year plan duration. And, lastly, progress reporting on previous year's goals, including justifications if the goal was not met. By accurately calculating wage gaps, reporting findings, and implementing improvement plans, seafood farms can take meaningful steps towards fairer wages. Following ASC guidelines and using the Wage Improvement Plan template helps ensure compliance, transparency, and steady progress towards a living wage for all farm employees.